All right, so today we'll begin by looking at the organization of the nervous system as a review. So we have the central nervous system, or CNS, and so that's part of the brain and spinal cord is what makes it up. And then the PNS, peripheral nervous system, is divided into a sensory and a motor division. And so we'll be focusing on this visceral motor division of looking at the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. And so for the visceral motor division, we're looking at what innervates organs that are not under voluntary control. And so the effectors are going to be like cardiac muscle, smooth muscle of visceral organs and blood vessels, as well as glands. And so these are part of the peripheral nervous system because the neurons are motor, but there are sensory neurons from the viscera for control as well. The first division is the sympathetic. And so this system dominates in emergency or stressful situations. And so this will activate the body for fight or flight through the release of certain neurotransmitters, predominantly by norepinephrine. And so this promotes responses that prepare the body for strenuous physical activity. And so in emergencies, this helps to increase heart rate and blood glucose levels to get energy to our vital organs and also to divert blood to skeletal muscle. This also will help to regulate heart, blood vessel, and other organs in a tonic fashion. The second division that we have is the parasympathetic, and this will dominate in quiet and relaxed states, and so this is termed our rest and digest, as we commonly refer it to. And so this will be an antagonist to the sympathetic division, and so this allows the body to rest and digest through the release of acetylcholine, which is the main neurotransmitter, and so it helps to maintain body maintenance activities like digestion, but also helps to then slow down the heart rate and then increase digestive activities when we're not in a stressful situation. So what's unique with the autonomic motor system is that it has two sets of neurons in the peripheral nervous system. The first has cell bodies in the brain or spinal cord and synapses in an autonomic ganglion. All right, and so that's what we're seeing here. So it originates within CNS, and then it's going to synapse on an autonomic ganglion. The second has cell bodies in the ganglion, which we have here, and synapses then onto the effector organ. The autonomic ganglion are located in the head, neck, and abdomen, as well as in chains along either side of the spinal cord. And so we have the preganglionic neuron and the postganglionic neuron. And so our preganglionic neuron will be the one that originates with the cell body in the central nervous system versus the postganglionic neuron, which has a cell body originating within the autonomic ganglion. So with our two divisions, let's compare and contrast the two between the sympathetic and then the parasympathetic. All right, so we'll start with the fibers. And so the fibers within the sympathetic division originate in the thoracic and the lumbar regions, whereas the parasympathetic originate at the cranial and the sacral areas. In terms of the preganglionic fibers, again, these are the ones that originated within the central nervous system. These fibers are going to be short for the sympathetic nervous system versus long with the parasympathetic nervous system. So then we'll have the opposite for the postganglionic cell, and the postganglionic neuron had the cell body originating within the autonomic ganglia. So it'll be longer within the sympathetic, shorter within the parasympathetic. For both of them, the preganglionic fibers both release acetylcholine as their neurotransmitter. Now the difference with these two for the postganglionic fibers is with the sympathetic, the main neurotransmitter that's released is norepinephrine. And then the main neurotransmitter that's released with the parasympathetic one division is acetylcholine. Also, something unique only to the sympathetic nervous system is this mass activation of preganglionic fibers. And so what that helps to do is it helps to create a contraction as a unit. And so that when we are in a fight or flight situation, then we can have this mass contraction or activation of those preganglionic fibers, which are close to the spinal cord, and is the reason why the preganglionic fibers are short within the sympathetic nervous system. All right, so here what we have are comparison of the two divisions. So here in this picture, what we have in the blue, this represents the location of those preganglionic fibers that are found within, again, the cranial and the sacral region. And so these have a long preganglionic fiber. And then these yellow dots represent where the autonomic ganglia are. And then you see that they have a shorter postganglionic fiber. This red here represents then the sympathetic division, and so you see that it has a short preganglionic fiber. And what this is the chain of ganglia that allows for that mass activation. And so these are going to be close and on both sides of the spinal cord. Then we have long postganglionic fibers that occur within the sympathetic division. All right, so some of the differences between the two in terms of organs, well, which is found in this table here, is that, for instance, with the eye, we have the pupils dilate under sympathetic conditions. Also, we have the heart rate is going to increase, the contraction of the heart will also increase. The vessels within the skin are going to constrict, and then the skin will also have smooth muscles start to contract. Then within skeletal muscles, the blood vessels there will start to dilate so we can get more blood flow to the region so that we can escape a certain situation. Within the bronchioles, the smooth muscles, they're going to start to relax with bronchodilation so that we can take in more air. Again, to escape some type of situation. With sweat glands, we'll have an increase in activity, so that's why when you do like a presentation, you have an excess in sweat because of the sympathetic activity. And then also with the urinary bladder, we might have a slight reaction, so sometimes when you're in a very nervous situation, you might pee a little bit. The parasympathetic division then has opposite effects. So we'll have within the eyes, they'll start to constrict, the heart rate will decrease, the contraction of the atria will also decrease. The bronchioles, the smooth muscle there, will have contraction, so we'll have bronchoconstriction because you don't need to take in as much air when you're just digesting. And then also you can have more control and contraction of that urinary bladder. So with that sympathetic ganglion, let's elaborate on this a little bit more, where this only occurs for the sympathetic division. And so the sympathetic neurons that exit the spinal cord below the diaphragm do not synapse in this chain of ganglia, okay? And so this is from the splenic nerve, which synapses on these collateral ganglia. And so what we see here is this chain that occurs on both sides of the spinal cord. And what this helps to do, again, is for that mass activation when we're in those emergency situations, so that this will help with activation of such organs like the eyes, as well as with our lungs and our heart, so that they can respond to those emergency situations.